Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. The NFL Draft is just a few days away, and I can't be any more anxious. I've talked to you guys about just every angle the Steelers could take, why they're not going to take a cornerback, why they could take a linebacker, how Kevin Colbert gets it right more often than he gets it wrong, why Kevin Colbert and the Steelers front office avoid taking defensive backs in the first round. I've covered this from every single angle. But it always appears that there's something extra that we'll see. I mean, I've gone through. I have a labor of love, the free ebook if you haven't gotten it, the 2016 draft preview. 30 of the Steelers pre-draft visitors detailed in this free ebook that you can get over at steelcityunderground.com. And the reason I'm pitching it one last time, of course, this thing's a rag after Thursday, right? It's no good. You could go back and see who the Steelers might have passed on. And it's going to be interesting because of those 30 guys and the other various athletes that the Steelers have visited on pro days, we're going to see who the Steelers pass on, who they take. So after the weekend, we'll know which of these guys that they visited are officially going to become Pittsburgh Steelers or not. But there's a little more at play to that. There's still more at play. There's more than just getting into the psychology of Kevin Colbert and the players that they visited and the positions that they're looking at. It's the positions and the moves that the other teams are making. It's forever an organically moving, ever-evolving process that is the National Football League. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I've been talking to people throughout the different forums, Facebook, Twitter, all the different groups, the Steel City Underground pages and all the different tweets, and my own personal Twitter. And even friends on the phone, and we've got the football fever in us, and we're like, you guys know, I said a week ago, thank you for wishing my wife happy birthday, even though she's a Cleveland Browns fan. And look what happens. The Cleveland Browns at number 2, or formerly now number 2 overall in the NFL draft, they traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. They are moving down and swapping lots of picks with the Eagles. And prior to that, now the Los Angeles, formerly the St. Louis Rams, swapping with the Tennessee Titans. So you're looking at, what do the Rams and the Eagles want that the Titans and the Browns didn't? And what is the draft strategy of the Tennessee Titans or the Cleveland Browns? What is the draft strategy? I mean, we almost know for sure what the draft strategy for the Los Angeles Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be at number 1 and number 2. They're going to take quarterbacks, right? Well, I was listening on NFL radio, and they did, Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller, two guys that I have a lot of respect for and I truly love. And Jim goes with the Philadelphia, or I'm sorry, it wasn't Jim. He wasn't picking, but he's just kind of emceeing this. These were respected fans who know their teams, and they had the Eagles representative take Jalen Ramsey at number 2 overall. You just never know what's going to happen. There were other callers calling in from Philadelphia saying, City of Brotherly Love wasn't going to be full of love if they trade all these picks and don't take a player that they could have otherwise maybe gotten at number 8 anyways. And this is just the beauty of all this, is that how it organically moves is going to influence what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do at number 25. And I've said that before. Reggie Nelson doesn't get re-signed by the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals are sitting there at 24. And the Bengals also lost Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones, 2 of their wide receivers, 2 of their more prominent wide receivers of, A.J. Green's still there. A.J. Green is the big guy, but when you're looking at overall snap counts and you put 3 or 4 wide receivers out there on the field, they lost 2 of those main players, 2 of their go-to guys. Now, they re-sign like a veteran, just like the Steelers are doing. The Steelers lose Heath Miller. They get Ladarius Green. The Bengals go out and they take Brandon LaFell as a free agent. So they put 1 wide receiver plug in there. But what happens that now they have 2 guys that were brand new to this team last year, a draft pick and an undrafted free agent out of college. And they like what they got, but what if something's there that they like better? And I was talking about this, and I don't want to be a broken record because it's getting away from what I do want to talk about with the Rams and the Eagles and how that affects the Steelers. But you have to be thinking, when these things are constantly changing and evolving, what if the Bengals take a safety that the Steelers want? Did the Steelers go and take a corner that's otherwise there? And I think that's what we're really thinking about, is the cornerbacks and safeties. Who are going to be there? What players are going to be there? And if the Rams and Eagles are moving up, maybe the Rams and Eagles weren't initially thinking about quarterback, but now that they do, and that may affect the Dallas Cowboys picking at number 4. The Cowboys might have been looking at a quarterback. They might still take a quarterback. A lot of people think they might take Ohio State running back Ezekiel Elliott. And what I want you to think about is just picture the board, whiteboard, chalkboard for those of you who are maybe a bit older than me, and you're crossing off the names. And you're crossing off, and I sit there and I go, yes, a quarterback's off the board, because I know we don't want a quarterback, right? At least not with our first round draft choice. We want a defensive stud. We want somebody that's an impact, first year guy that's going to come in there and knock heads around. And I said, man, Carl Joseph is a guy that's a hard hitter, and he's somebody that would be awesome to be paired up with Mike Mitchell. And in previous years, when it was Jarvis Jones that I wanted, yes, I wanted Jarvis Jones, and yes, I wanted Bud Dupree, and man, I got the Ryan Shazier pick. Did not see them taking a linebacker and taking Shazier a couple years ago. So as we're looking at this, and I see a quarterback come off the board, it's just like, I'm sure some of you do the fantasy drafts too, and I see, yes, that guy needs a quarterback, and they're going to take a quarterback, which means a top-level safety is still out there. A top-level corner is still on the board, and I love to see that. So when I see the Rams and the Eagles move up, that gets me excited that more quality defensive players are still going to be available later in the draft. And, that it doesn't really matter, because the Eagles and Rams and the Titans and the Browns were all drafting ahead of the Steelers anyway. But that's where we get into another move that happened this past few days. We had Josh Norman, a corner with the Carolina Panthers, holding out, not signing his franchise tag tender, his contract, okay? Doesn't get a contract done, he's going to become a free agent before the league year starts here. So free agency period, we're getting up to that point, and the Carolina Panthers say, you know what? This guy is valuable to us. We are going to slap a franchise tag. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, basically, that means there's 3 different types of tags, and the one that went to Josh Norman was an exclusive rights franchise tag, which means you could only place one on one of your players that's going to become a free agent, and that guy's going to make an average of the top 5 salaries at his position for that year. And then there's increases if you end up tagging him the following year, and blah, blah, blah. So this is meant to protect the interests of both the player and the I don't want to say the owners, but the franchise or the club, in that they could retain the rights of a certain player. That player is still going to make a very good salary, be handsomely paid, as is the case with Josh Norman. He was, compared to these other corners, he was making peanuts last year. He was a 5th-round draft choice, right? I've talked about him many times here. You could always find value in the later rounds, and they did with Josh Norman. And Josh Norman now wants a big payday, and they're going to offer him, the Panthers aren't nothing to sneeze at, man. They're at $11 million, but he's thinking, you know what, there's a better deal. Grass is greener somewhere. They franchise tag him. And the guy's like, no, you know what, I don't want to be paid. I want more. And finally, one of these teams got the guts to say, you know what, screw you. I'm going to dump you on your ass. Right before the draft. Some teams have already blown their wad on free agency. You know where you're going to end up, Josh Norman? You're going to end up somewhere making the same amount of money that the Panthers were offering you, maybe even less. You're going to have to take a deal now to end up with somebody, or you're going to end up on a team that's still kind of rebuilding, that has some cap space, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Jacksonville might just say, you know what, this guy, you had these guys running around, that whole thing with Odell Beckham Jr. and the baseball bats, and we don't want anything to do with that guy. Man, what a situation to be in, because you were so selfish and greedy. You were just in the Super Bowl. And I understand. I am an advocate for get what you can. Get paid, guys, because this window of opportunity in the NFL is short. But Josh Norman. A lot of people are thinking, oh, well, the Steelers are going to be interested in Josh Norman. I saw Mark Cabali tweet over there the other day and said, if the Steelers were to do that, everything I know about them would be I would be wrong. It would change my mind, because that's not how they operate. They don't deal with knuckleheads and people who want to extort their team for more money, and they're not going to pay all this money that they don't have in cap room right now just because somebody is one of the top corners in the league. So, if the Steelers aren't going to take Josh Norman, somebody else is. And maybe that somebody else is one of these teams picking between picks 1 and 24. And I say that is awesome, and you know why that's awesome. For the same reason that I like seeing names scratched off of that chalkboard, whiteboard, whatever you want to call it. Take it down. Take the name placard down. That team doesn't need a corner anymore because they signed Josh Norman to a lucrative deal. Now they don't have to take one of these corners, maybe William Jackson III, that the Steelers have their eyeballs on, and now Jackson falls all the way down to pick 25 because someone that was picking between 15 and 18, they signed Josh Norman. They no longer need to draft a rookie cornerback. They got a proven guy, a veteran, that's going to go out there and play for them now. We can use our draft efforts somewhere else. Maybe we'll use it on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe they need... People don't ever seem to take running backs anymore in the first round. I won't say a running back, quarterback, maybe a wide receiver. They're going to get a wide receiver instead of a corner. All hypothetical. I'm not filling in team names or cities or anything like that here. But what's not a hypothetical is, if someone signs Josh Norman, they no longer have a roster spot. They no longer have all of this money. The rookies aren't going to make all that much anyways, the way the scales work now since the last collective bargaining agreement. But I love the thought of one of the teams picking ahead of the Steelers, taking Josh Norman. And we don't have to worry about the Carolina Panthers either, who are now lacking a corner and more than likely will draft a corner. The only way the Carolina Panthers now end up screwing up the Steelers' draft plans is if the Steelers were planning, as I've been advocating all along, at not taking a corner with pick 25 overall. Of course, the Panthers picking at pick 31, so the Panthers will get to select their player before the Steelers get their second round choice. So maybe that kind of knocks down a few of the names that would be available to the Steelers when they want to pick a corner in rounds 2 or 3 on day 2. And, that type of stuff's going to happen. There's still going to be other trades. There's going to be trades on draft day. There's going to be trades leading up. We still don't know what's going to go on with the Rams or the Eagles, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I would love it even more if Josh Norman does sign with somebody that is drafting ahead of the Steelers. Guys, the draft is right around the corner. If you're not as excited as I am, I don't know what else to tell you. But if you haven't had a chance yet, please do. It's your last chance to get the free ebook over on steelcityunderground.com. There are like 10 or 11 safeties. Out of the 30 overall visits, over half of them were corners, safeties, and then they only interviewed like 4 or 5 offensive players. There was 1 running back, there was 2 wide receivers, and like 2 or 3 offensive linemen. Everybody else is on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of those guys are going to be going on this upcoming draft weekend, and you can get a jump on and know everything about them in this guide. I took a lot of time to put all this information in there, and you know what? I didn't just do that for you. I had to do my homework too, because I need to know who Carl Joseph is. I need to know who Keanu Neal is. I need to know if the Cincinnati Bengals might be looking at one of these players. I want to see who are the wide receivers that the Steelers brought in for a pre-draft visit. Could these guys be impact players on the very opening kickoff Sunday, or Monday in our case, in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, when the Steelers play the Washington Redskins to open up the 2016 NFL season? They very well could be. Thank you for listening, everybody, and just hold on to your seats. This is going to be one wild ride coming up this week. Well, fans, I have something to add, and this doesn't happen often, but considering that I had already recorded the audio for this broadcast, I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed that Josh Norman has indeed signed a contract with one of the teams drafting ahead of the Steelers this upcoming week in the 2016 NFL Draft. He has narrowed his choice down to the Washington Redskins, signing a monster contract. That deal is reportedly worth $75 million over 5 years. So now you could see why the Steelers couldn't afford it. But I just had to add this little addendum onto that piece. I am very happy. One less team ahead of the Steelers looking for a player in their secondary.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.